All right, let's jump in. We're going to be exploring a really ancient blueprint for understanding, well, the human condition. And the interesting part is seeing how this old framework might just give us a whole new lens for our super modern lives.
You know that feeling, right? It's like this low humming background noise, a sense that something is just not quite right, even when, on paper, everything seems to be going okay. It's a feeling almost everyone can relate to. And hey, you're not the first to feel it, not by a long shot. For millennia, people have been trying to figure this out. The framework we're looking at today, it's a direct, really systematic approach to understanding this feeling, and it was laid out over 2,500 years ago.
And the original texts, the Pali Canon, they really don't pull any punches here. I mean, listen to that. It's suggesting that the very reason we feel stuck, the reason we kind of wander through life without a clear direction, is because we haven't quite grasped these truths.
So what we're going to do here is bypass centuries of interpretation and go right to the source material. We're using translations that really try to capture the nuance of the original Pali words, not just the common and sometimes kind of misleading English versions. Let's see what we find.
So this whole framework kicks off not with a belief, but with a diagnosis. You can think of it like a doctor examining a patient. You start with the symptom that's showing up. And that main symptom, it has a name, dukkha. Now, you'll often see this translated as just suffering, but honestly, that word doesn't quite cover it. The original Pali, Dūgha Ariyasaccāni, is pointing to something way broader. It's this fundamental unsatisfactoriness, a kind of persistent stress or friction that's just part of life.
So, what does that actually mean in our day-to-day lives? Well, the texts lay it out pretty clearly. You've got the big stuff, obviously, the stress of being born, of getting older, of facing death, and of course, the pain of grief. But it also includes all that subtle, everyday friction, like being stuck with people you don't like, being separated from people you love, and that constant frustration of just not getting what you want. The key takeaway here is that it's not just about big tragedies, it's about the entire texture of our lives.
Okay, so if the first truth is the diagnosis, the second truth asks the next logical question. What's causing it? Where is all this unsatisfactoriness coming from?
And the framework points to a very specific origin, a root cause. The Pali term is tanha. You can think of this as a thirst or a craving. It's that constant wanting that pushes us forward, the desire that drives us to become something more, something different, something else. It's basically the engine of our restlessness. And this isn't just one simple kind of craving. The texts actually break it down into 3 types. First, there's the one we all know, kama tanha, the craving for pleasant sights, sounds, tastes, you get the picture. Then there's bhava tanha, which is deeper. It's the craving for existence itself, to keep going, to become someone, to achieve some kind of status. And then, super interestingly, there's the craving for the exact opposite, vibhava tanha. This is the craving to not exist, to escape it all, to just annihilate the problem. Okay, so we've got a diagnosis, dukkha, and we've got a cause, tanha. And that might sound, a little bit grim, but the third truth is where everything pivots from the problem to the solution. It offers a prognosis, and it's actually a hopeful one. This is the truth of nirodha, which basically means ending or cessation. And the logic here is just beautifully simple. If craving is what causes all the unsatisfactoriness, then the complete end of that craving has to be the end of the unsatisfactoriness. It's saying, hey, a cure is possible. And we're not just talking about feeling a little bit better here. The texts describe this cessation as something really profound, an unfeeling reality. It's presented as the definitive end of that fundamental dis-ease that we diagnosed in the very first truth.
So we have the diagnosis, we have the cause, and we have the great news that a cure actually exists. So what's the treatment plan? What's the prescription?
The framework lays out a really clear, actionable set of guidelines. This is the Noble Eightfold Path, or in Pali, Aryo Aktangiko Maggo. Think of it as a practical training manual for your mind and for your life.
Now, to make it a bit easier to get our heads around, these 8 parts are usually grouped into 3 main areas. It all starts with wisdom, then it moves into how we actually act with ethical conduct, and finally, it's about how we train our minds through mental discipline.
So the foundation for the entire path is wisdom. It kicks off with right view, which really just means truly understanding this whole framework we've been talking about. It's like having the right map. And from that correct map, you get right intention, which is all about pointing your mind towards goodwill and harmlessness instead of getting stuck in greed and anger.
Next up, that wisdom has to actually show up in how we live. This is ethical conduct. It's about making sure our behavior lines up with our understanding. We're talking right speech, right action, and even right livelihood. The idea here is simple. Live in a way that doesn't cause harm to yourself or to anyone else.
And the final piece of the puzzle is the active training of the mind itself. This is where we build the mental muscle to actually stay on this path. It involves right effort to grow positive states of mind, right mindfulness to be super aware of what's happening right now, and right concentration to develop a steady, focused mind. So, what happens when you fully understand and live by this framework? What's the end result? Well, the texts give us a really powerful metaphor for it. On one side, you have the mind without this insight. It's compared to a light, fluffy piece of cotton, just blown around by every passing opinion, every changing mood, every little thing that happens. But a mind that has really, truly grasped these truths, that mind is like a massive stone pillar, sunk deep into the earth. Storms can rage, winds can blow, but it just stays firm, unshakable. So let's just pull it all together. This isn't about blind faith. It's a pragmatic, logical process. 1, you identify the problem. There's this fundamental unsatisfactoriness in life. 2, you find its cause, craving. 3, you realize a solution is possible, the end of that craving. And 4, you follow the prescription, the eightfold path. It's a complete system. And that leaves us with a final question for you to think about. If you were to look at your own experiences through this lens, this framework of diagnosis, cause, prognosis, and prescription, how might that shift your perspective on the challenges you face in your own life right now?